Hey guys, and in this video covering the OCR A-level psychology specification, the options and applied psychology paper, and the forensic option, we're going to talk about depression and suicide risk in prisons. Now, I want to say first, as I always do in these videos, that I know not all of you are into the psychology videos, but there are more tech videos coming soon. As you'll have seen on the channel around the time this was uploaded, there have also been quite a few Drupal videos uploaded, and those are going to keep coming. There's also rumoured to be an Apple announcement later this month, so there'll be lots of videos around that. So there are lots of interesting tech videos to come. But right now, I just wanted to get as many of these psychology videos out there as possible, because they help me to revise, and they might help you to revise if you're someone that's sitting that specification. So today, like I said, we're going to talk about depression and suicide risk in prisons. Now, this is a big problem for prisons. Obviously, not a lot, but let's say a disproportionate amount of offenders who come into prison are drug addicted and have substance abuse problems and are mentally ill than outside in the general population. So prison officers have a good job in their hands trying to control them, and particularly in the US, a lot of sort of mental hospitals have been shut down in favour of creating psychiatric facilities in prisons. So finding out why people want to kill themselves and what makes them depressed in prison is important, because it allows us to maybe alter some of those factors, or know how to control people better. So today we're going to talk about the study by Dooley, 1990, and their aim was to investigate all the natural deaths that occurred in prisons in England and Wales between 1972 and 1987. Excuse me while I glance at my notes. So this was all prison deaths in England and Wales. So although we can only generalise the findings to the British prison system, so you've got some ethnocentrism issues there. We can generalise it to all of the British prison system, because they looked at all the recorded deaths between 1972 and 1987. I always struggle to remember those specific dates, so if I say that a lot of times throughout this video, that's to help me remember as much as anything. I'm usually good at remembering dates, but those specific ones I suck at remembering those. I don't know why. So again, his aim was to investigate all the natural deaths that occurred in prisons in England and Wales between 1972 and 1987. Hopefully that goes in my head. And how did they do it? Well, they got all the they did a content analysis. So that's where the materials are your samples. So you don't have people as samples. You look at in this case case files, or all the different suicides and everything they've got on their prison record, and all those files they got from the official prison personnel department. So they are the records of what actually happened. So in terms of all else we need to know for this procedure, in terms of the results I've found for the A-level spec, all we need to know in terms of the procedure is that it was a content analysis of all unnatural deaths, and my screen's gone off now, so this is gonna test me. All unnatural deaths between 1972 and 1987. I think I got that right. So was content analysis of the deaths, and how did they content analyze them? Because when you're doing a content analysis, you have to do it in a structured way. So they analyze the death files by looking at the offenders social and marital relationships. They looked at their psychiatric record, and they looked at their forensic record. So that's obviously anything that were related to the crime you committed, or anything after you've come into prison. So that's all we need to know in terms of the procedure. What did they find? Well, a total of 442 unnatural deaths occurred in prisons between 1972 and 1987. 300 of those got a verdict of suicide, which is what we're looking at here. And as well as just suicide, they also included in that 52 CSI cases, which is conscious self-injury. So they didn't actually intend to kill themselves, but they intended to injure themselves, and that resulted in them being so 442 unnatural deaths. Two groups that they looked at: suicide and other unnatural death factors such as CSI, conscious self-injury, and they found that a disproportionate number of the deaths occurred at night, and also a significant number more of the CSI deaths. So that's conscious self-injury again occurred in women. So more of the men just killed themselves than the women. Remand prisoners were also overrepresented. So obviously, when you're on remand, you're awaiting trial. That's the equivalent of when you'd be in jail in the US. In the US, that's different. The difference between jail and prison: jail's where you go when you're awaiting trial, and prison's where you go when you've been convicted. But here, there's no distinction. We just call it prison. So a disproportionate number of the CSI deaths were commissioned by women and at night, and also in terms of the male offenders, there are a lot more deaths that occurred when people were on remand than not on remand. And let's think about why that is for a second. Obviously, if you don't know whether you're gonna be convicted of an offence or not, and it's your life sort of hanging in the balance, and you've got no control over it, that's gonna push you over the edge quite obviously. So from this and from presumably some other metrics that were used, Dooley concluded that the main reasons for the rise in unnatural deaths, and it still continues to rise beyond what it was between 1972 and 1987. Hey, I finally got it. And it still continues to rise. He concluded that the reason for that was partly to do with overcrowding, because a lot of prisons, particularly in America, and I know this study isn't in America, but a lot of prisons, particularly in America, some of them are housing double what they were built for. So what was a one-man cell is now a two-man cell. So you have no personal space, and it's overcrowded. So that's Dooley, 1990, looked at all unnatural deaths in prisons in England and Wales between 1972 and 1987. 442 unnatural deaths occurred. 300 of them got a verdict of suicide, and the other ones got a mixture of verdicts, including CSI, conscious self-injury, which accounted for 52 of the deaths. So, duly 1990, let's talk about some evaluation points. Well, one, it was content analysis, so the material was pre-existing, so we don't have all the ethics problems with getting informed consent and right to withdraw and things like that, because they're not doing anything to the participants per se. The material is just pre-existing. Let's talk about sample validity, or rather population validity. In this case, and this is rare, sample validity is actually very high, because they only set out to explain the deaths in England and Wales, and they got access to all the files, so that they were able to indeed get it. I read somewhere, I think it was in the original article, that some of the suicide files they were only able to get access to 295 of the 300, but since reading that, wherever I initially read it, I haven't been able to verify that, and even then it's still a very high sample validity, especially considering what it used to. It's men and women from a range of backgrounds, so the generalizability is very high. And usefulness, if it was indeed overcrowding that treated it, and we can make that distinction, we can use this as a piece of empirical research to convince prison authorities that we need to change the way prisons work. Haney and Zimbardo, 1998, they're the ones that did the infamous Stanford prison study, 1973. They made several suggestions on how the prison system needed to improve, and then they went back and looked at it in 1998, 8 years after this study, and found that it had actually got worse. So I'm not sure in practice if the prison service used empirical research to inform their decisions, but in theory it's certainly a useful piece of research. We've also got some possible reductionism in the content analysis. They were only analysed on the checklist for those specific variables, such as psychiatric history, forensic history, social and marital relationships. So there could have been other factors other than those that accounted for the difference. It's also, when you're doing a content analysis, because you can interpret the data and you know what you want to find out, there's also quite a possibility for researcher bias. So just some evaluation points to think about there. Dooley, 1919, investigated all the prison deaths between 1972 and 1987. Hopefully my brain will get that now. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't and you like tech videos, don't worry. There are more of those coming soon too. Thanks for watching, and visit my website address down below, tomdesridges.com, for a whole bunch more content. You can also visit my survey, which I'll put a link to down below as well, where you can get a say in kind of the future of what happens on my YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. Dooley, 1990, 1972, 1987. If you've watched the previous part of the video, you'll understand the relevance of me suddenly uttering out those dates. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. 1972 and 1987. How am I going to remember that? Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.